2022. What a year that was. It was lengthy yet brief. It was full of chart smashers, games delayed, once again, Skull and Bones, games left in limbo looking at you once again, Ubisoft or Beyond Good and Evil. I'm not trying to single Ubisoft out. I just have questions for them. Probably we won't get answers. Anyway, that's not the point of this. If you haven't seen part 1, go make sure to watch it. In case you think I'm missing any games in there, there will be another part because there are just so many games that I didn't want this to be too long. That's what she said. And let's just dive into it. Bluepoint Studios and Krafton together developed and published this MMORPG title called Tera Online. The Exiled Realm of Aboria, or Tera, was a typical MMORPG featuring a fantasy environment, in-depth story, questing, and real-time PvP combat. You clearly can't ask for much more from your MMORPG, right? The game first became accessible in South Korea in 2011, kind of like a similar game that's going through some issues, Lost Ark. But I'm not going to turn this into a Lost Ark video. This was released in North America in 2012. Oof, a whole 10 years. Dang. Despite not being the most well-known game, Tera had over 25 million players in 2017, and a year after it launched, it had 1.4 million players in 2013. Jesus. Despite having downloaded this for a while, I don't think I ever really launched it. Maybe once back in like 2013, 2014, something like that, but I don't think I ever played this. Those that loved it really loved it, and those that don't, yeah, they could take it or leave it. The publisher Gameforge, who has been in charge of the title since 2012 when the original developers En Masse Entertainment went out of business, they announced that June 30th, 2022, the servers would be going offline because they just couldn't continue to provide high quality content for the game, which I respect. I respect developers putting an end to a game before it trickles out into a very, very sad death and stays way longer than it needs to. I swear, people are really going to think I'm singling out Ubisoft. But the best example of overcrowded markets hopping on trends too late and forgotten at launch is undoubtedly the futuristic battle royale shooter from Ubisoft called Hyperscape. Ubisoft acknowledged that Hyperscape wasn't in a great situation a few months after its launch in August of 2020 and set out to fix it, but it was never really able to gain traction in the market that was already ruled by games like Call of Duty Warzone, Apex Legends, and still PUBG to an extent. We recently, at the time of recording this video, I had a look at the inner turmoil of Ubisoft, and we've all heard it. If you're in the gaming industry and you focus on this stuff, you've heard of the troubles that Ubisoft has put themselves into, and it starts at the top and trickles down. Anyway, part of me believes that it's the mismanagement of Ubisoft that led to the turmoil that this game had, because from what I saw a bit of it, it was a quality game, good solid gameplay, felt good. It feels like they wanted this game to be a cash cow like Warzone, and it just never worked out. This game was almost doomed from the start, and you could kind of tell before it even came out. It launched in 2020, like I said, right at the start of the Panasonic, and lasted a full 3 in Army. It came out a full 3 years after the start of like the battle royale hype, the PUBGs, and it came out a year after the titan that would be Apex Legends that's still going strong today. And it also came out the same year as Warzone. And let's face it, no matter how good a game is, it is difficult to compete with Call of Duty unless you are bringing something brand new to the table that is just going to hook people in. Look at Apex. If Battlefield 5 Firestorm couldn't keep up, how is a shooter battle royale from the kings of open world supposed to compete? Let's be honest, most of us do not think of a battle royale shooter when we think of Ubisoft. We think of open worlds, unending worlds, infinite replayability, spending so much time in these worlds. Sometimes these worlds are too big and there's not really much to do and shit gets repetitive. As much as I love Assassin's Creed Odyssey, that's kind of what I'm experiencing. I'm playing through it right now. at the time of recording this. But I do applaud the team behind this game because clearly they cared. And they were frequently seen in people's streams and their own streams attempting to build a community. They wanted games as a spectacle, is what they wanted to have this game as, to try to build and grow a community. Unfortunately, like Bleeding Edge, Lawbreakers, Vicious Circle, and multiple games that I could name before it, this just couldn't establish its own foothold in the gaming sphere. And I don't know if I don't know who to look at to point the finger. I want to point it, it's easy to point at Ubisoft, but I just don't know if this was a game that ever would have done well, considering the time it came out. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, though. Now, no one is surprised by this one. And if you say you're surprised that Fast and the Furious Crossroads is closed down, I am calling lies. I call you a liar. If you don't remember, Fast and the Furious Crossroads was a role-playing racing game based on the Fast and the Furious franchise. It was created by a Codemaster, the Kings of Racing subsidiary, Slightly Mod Studios, and was released by Bandai Namco. The game was originally planned for launch on PC, PS4, Xbox One in May 2020, but like a couple games that we've seen so far, it was delayed due to the pastrami sandwich. The game was critically planned by players and critics alike, following in the footsteps of most movie tie-in games. And if you guys know, in my personal, I love movie tie-in games because they're either really, really bad, like awful, some of the worst games you ever play, or they're really good, and there's no in between. So I like to play them. I've reviewed, done retrospectives on a couple of them. I love movie tie-in games. I will never play this game. I would rather play Ride to Hell Retribution, or was it Ride to Hell Redemption? Ride to Hell Retribution. I would rather play that than play this. A couple cars from the Fast and the Furious series appear. A couple main characters appear as well. This game follows a new plot with new action and various new cars, though. And there was a multiplayer mode as well. I think I remember watching Yong Ye play this. He had a video about it, and it was bad. While racing was the main focus of Fast and the Furious Crossroads, players also had to battle foes and escape traps using vehicles equipped with weapons, kind of like Take Me Down to the Paradise City, Burnout Paradise City, or like the Burnout series where you would be smashing into cars, kind of like that. The game released back in August 7th, 2022, and it was announced back in May, though. Crossroads was removed from all platforms at the end of April 2022, with all sales ceasing on the 29th, according to a statement from Bandai Namco's official website. So this next one is a little weird because unlike many of the other games in this list, America's Army's Proving Ground ran for an amazing 20 years before it was finally shut down. I think as of right now, that is the longest running game. We've had 10 years. We've had... I think that is about the longest running game on these lists. Now, I'm not super familiar with these games. I have run across them in the Whispers of History and stuff, but I've never played them. And I do know that these games are, in the nicest way, propaganda for the U.S. military. And this is not... Let me tell you a bit more about this game, and I'm not trying to start anything, not trying to be anything. This is just literally what these games are. I mean, unlike the SOCOM games, which I love those had hints of propaganda, those had the videos, the loading screens of like, join the U.S. military. No, this was literally made by the U.S. Army. The goal of the game was to educate, inform, and recruit potential soldiers. The game was introduced in 2002. I was a wee baby right after that special September 11th in 2001. This was marketed as a tactical communication tool intended to let Americans digitally explore the Army at their own pace and decide whether being a soldier suits their interest and skills. This is literally a propaganda game. America's Army was the first time that the American government had used a game as a platform for strategic recruitment and communication, and it was also the first time a game had been used to aid recruiting with the American Army. America's Proving Ground, though, is very unique from other games on this list. It's just smashing all over. That's what she said. Smashing all over. Okay. This is very unique compared to the other games, as while the official servers closed down in May 2022, after 20 years of running, the private servers and mission editor, not elements, mission editor and other offline features will continue to function, which means as long as somebody has the cash to rent servers, the game will be live, but the devs have now, after 20 years, stopped supporting it. Now, no, I'm never gonna play a game like this. And I've played other propaganda. Drop something. Other propaganda-like games and all that. It's not my type. Yes, I play FPSs, but I don't want to play this game. Apparently, it's really good. Those that love it, love it. Those that don't. Otherwise, it wouldn't have run for 20 years. And there is other America's Armies games. I don't know how many of them. There is a couple. I don't know. Has anybody ever played this or even heard that the American Army made video games? Let me know in the comments section below. Now, this is not a game, but a service that provides the game, and when the service goes offline, it will seal the fates of some of these games. That's the Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS eShops. They are closing down. Some of the games will be hidden behind the store's closed doors until Nintendo decides either to re-release them or let other people have them, which we know Nintendo will never let other people have their games, but we're waiting for them to re-release them on Switch. This may be cheating as the stores haven't officially closed yet. We just know that they're closing soon in this year, 2023, and the full closure will happen in March, if I'm not mistaken. So after 10 years, that means you won't be able to purchase digital games for either system. You'll have to get physical copies or not uninstall the games you have. You also won't be able to purchase in-game content, download free demos or free-to-play software, redeem digital codes, or add funds to your 3DS or Wii U consoles. You still have time to gather as many digital games as you can before you virtually flee with them, but after the March 2023 deadline, you won't be able to do anything. And the games you've already downloaded, you can re-download. They don't say how long you can re-download them for if you've bought them. So that one, at least that I know of, I should say. Logically, I know these stores can't stay open forever. Look at the PS3. PS3 was a controversial one because of what they tried to do, but just stores can't stay open forever. And we are 5 years into the Switch's lifespan, 2017. I don't know, can't do math. I failed twice, not even gonna lie about that. I did fail twice. It's just the natural progression of things, and at least they gave us ample warning and didn't try to shut it down early. PlayStation. But are you surprised by these stores closing? What is your favorite, if you've ever played Wii U, favorite Wii U game, and what is your favorite 3DS game? Because my first Nintendo console was a Super Nintendo, and my first one that offered digital stuff is now because I have a Switch. So Super Nintendo to Switch. Those are I have a Game Boy, I have an NES, but those are old as shit. Now, a great engrossing narrative, deeply driven narrative experiences, those distinguish the Army of Two games. Most people won't remember these. These were a flash in the pan, kind of like the Kane and Lynch games. Came out the same time, like around Max Payne 3, kind of like in those general games era. The weird era of gaming where it really was balls to the wall stuff, Manhunt, all that stuff. The early 2000s and mid 2000s were wild for gaming. But anyway, the follow-up Army of Two, the 40th Day, was even more in-depth and at a complicated system of morality that elevated a third-person shooter with co-op in it into one of the best co-op gaming experiences that most people that have played it will say. Additionally, both characters in Army of Two 40th Day felt integral to the game. No one was better than the other, and it felt like both players were needed and weren't just an extension tacked on for pity or something like that. In October 2022, EA shut down a number of its internet services for games, including the 40th Day. We covered another one, Assassin's Creed 3, and players can no longer play around with their friends, but at least you still have co-op if you want to, local co-op I should say, you still want to play with your buddies in the same space. But seriously, Army of Two, pretty good games. I would recommend, if you can find them, give them a try at least. I think I want to play those. I think I might do a retrospective on at least the first or second game, and maybe Kane and Lynch this year. I don't know. Another Tryon game has failed to find its legs, and that is Atlas Rogue, which was a turn-based roguelike PvE tactics game. That's a lot of shit to cram into one game. Okay. Anyway, it was acquired as part of Tryon World's acquisition. I can't remember when that happened, and was shut down in 2022. The announcement claimed that the game can no longer maintain itself, which means they don't want to support it. In nice words, which clarifies, why it shut down. Around July 5th, 2022, the game's official closure took place. Now, I wasn't there to see it. I don't know. I forgot this game even existed. And GameGo acknowledged that the option may change in the future and promised more info for its player base. But I don't know about that one. I think this game is done for. And players that bought the game in 2022, some reimbursements were made for those players. Now, again, I forgot this game even existed. I remember seeing marketing for this and being confused because it really reminded me, and maybe I was the only one on this, reminded me of Saints Row and Agents of Mayhem. And I know Agents of Mayhem isn't a Saints Row game, but if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's gonna be a duck, But anyway, Atlas Rogues really reminded me of that, and I thought it was part of the Saints Row Agents of Mayhem series, but it wasn't. It launched way back in 2022. The game was also the hardest to find out of every single other game here because it's like it'd been scrubbed from history. The only other information I could find was from fellow creators, which was kind of puzzling. It's like nobody wanted to remember that this game exists. I don't know. This was also the second game to never make it out of early access on this list, the first being Scavengers. There is still a Steam page up for it, and you can go look at what the game was, but I don't have anything to say on this one because I forgot this game existed completely. Now, let me know what you guys thought of the games I just told you about, because I am curious. What games did you think I missed? Don't forget there is another part coming, and that'll be the final part because I don't want to bore y'all with all this. So let me know what you think, what games you're surprised by on this list, and what you think I missed. And I will see you guys in the final part of this series in the next video. I love you. Bye, guys.